Hello, good morning. Welcome to Gaming Insight Daily for Tuesday, February 4th, 2025. I'm Steve Saylor. This is your daily show of gaming news, accessibility news, or updates about my life. I have iced coffee in my Matrix mug today. Oh, yeah. Oh, you know what? Going back in for a third sip. Definitely needed this morning. Hello, good morning. Hope your week is starting off okay. I know, everything is kind of rough at the moment. Gestures at everything. However, I am glad you're here and hope your day turns out well. We actually have a few games to be able to do a quick review or doing some review roundups today. That'll be kind of a main part of the news, and then I've got a little bit of a story, news story for you. So I feel like it's going to be potentially maybe a little bit of a shorter episode today. Actually, we do also have some accessibility sort of a bit of a review as part of the review, so we'll just jump right into the news as it were. Just as a quick reminder, just before we get into that, I guess for housekeeping, just remember that now next week I will be in Las Vegas for the DICE Summit, so I probably will not be able to do any episodes of the show next week. But you can be able to expect a review from me for Avowed coming up next week. It should be, I can't remember if I'm allowed to announce the date or not, but you expect that review coming, I believe it'll be next week for that. So expect that happening while I'll be in Vegas. So that'll go up next week, but unfortunately there won't be any episodes of Gaming Insight Daily unless there's like a really big news story that we kind of have to talk about. I may do like a in the hotel room type episode, but for the most part I'll probably just be focusing on the DICE Summit. So that'll be from the 11th to the 14th. I will be basically away, so you'll have Monday's episode, and then you'll have the review for Avowed, my accessibility review for Avowed. So make sure you subscribe to this channel, youtube.com/@SteveSaylor, and you'll be able to get those that when it goes up, and you'll be notified when that goes up if you click the little bell as well. All right, let us jump into the news. So we've got a review roundup of Sid Meier's Civilization 7. Right now it has a cumulative score on Metacritic as an 80. And we're going to take a look at sort of the top reviews. Basically, it looks like that PC is the only one that has the reviews out. Everything else is to be determined. So, because I think I remember hearing that essentially the review codes were only sent out for PC and not for console. So that's pretty much where everyone else was going with. So let's take a look. Okay, so The Guardian gives it 100. Civilization 7 is very much the Civilization for now. Deep and complex, but with an emphasis on human drama and achievement rather than the sweep of faceless units across a mathematical matrix. There are still moments in video games as pleasing as building the Hanging Gardens or discovering a bountiful new location for a town or marching a plateau of troops into a battered enemy capital. This game, which once almost cost me my job, will gracefully sneak away out. will gracefully sneak away with hours, days, and possibly months of your life. But then nobody ever conquered the world in an afternoon. That is also true. Let's see what other. I'm trying to find some of our usual. We got VGC also giving it 100. Hey, we love VGC around here. Let's see. So they've said that Civilization 7 is bold enough to add big changes to its formula without getting rid of everything that has made the series iconic. Say goodbye to your free time, as from PC to handheld, every waking moment will be consumed by more turn. Or by one more turn. Nice. Okay, even handheld. Okay, because I do know that it was Steam Deck verified, but I wasn't sure if anyone had sort of covered it for or played with it on handheld. Sorry. All right, let's see. Windows Central, because this is mostly a PC game for review, we'll go with Windows Central. We gives it a 90. Civilization 7's biggest change fix. Mid and end game pacing, clean up clutter on the map, and open up more strategic avenues than ever before. Victory and unit balancing will no doubt be tweaked as developers receive feedback and data, but otherwise, the game is in a great state, something that's become increasingly rare in AAA games. Pricing and DLC gripes aside, Civilization 7 should prove to be the best playground for world domination for years to come. By the way, a lot of these I think are essentially kind of reviews in progress because the review codes kind of did come in late. So just as a heads up with that, from what I understand, I'm trying to find either IGN or GameSpot or anyone else we can that we recognize. It's not to say that these aren't valid to be able to look through, but I essentially there are certain folks that I kind of I sort of not necessarily trust, but just the ones I sort of gravitate towards as far as like the that are more my specific taste in video games, let's just say. All right, so GameSpot gives it an 80. Sid Meier's Civilization 7 was one more turn aspect. It still is as engaging as ever, and I enjoyed huge portions of my playthroughs. Several facets, such as those related to diplomacy, espionage, crises, and combat address long-standing concerns. Legacy Pass and narrative events, meanwhile, offer rich and rewarding avenues for advancement through the ages. Unfortunately, as someone who's seen the highs that the previous series entries have reached, the vanilla Civilization's experience still needs a few tweaks, as it's held back by the aforementioned issues that occurred during brief but crucial era transitions. Granted, the change this series has undergone over the years, whether it's the square tiles or hexes debate, the 1 unit per tile drama, or city planning with districts have been for the better eventually. The issues deemed controversial or cumbersome at the start paved the way for a better overall experience. As such, even if Civilization 7 has a strong foundation, we might not see the game's full potential until much later in its lifespan. But hey, at least the franchise has been consistent in that regard. Okay, all right, GameSpot giving it an 80. That's pretty good. I'm trying to find basically just IGN. I see a bunch of, obviously, IGN in the different sites. PC Gamers, okay, this is PC Gamer gives it a 76. Still a compelling sprint through human history. Civilization 7 shreds a little too much weight to match its excellent predecessors. I don't think that. Here we go. Okay. I thought the IGN would not have given it a score because it might have been review in progress, but they give it a 70. Civilization 7, the desire to streamline and simplify this legendary 4X series feels like it has gone a bit too far, particularly when it comes to the interface. It's frustratingly inadequate at providing me with the information I need to play well or even understand what's going on sometimes. Even so, it does have improved warfare and diplomacy, a bit of an added narrative flair, as well as most gorgeous graphics and sound, so it can still give me reasons to keep clicking one more turn late into the night. There's good reason to believe that with Firaxis' usual pace of patches and expansions, it can refine its new updates or new ideas and become everything it ought to be. And while what's there now is not as at least, while what's here now is at least still is a fun time, it's also a bigger step backward for the series that we've accustomed to when a new age dawns. Okay, kind of a bit of a wide of a gamut of criticisms. It seems as if that a lot of people were sort of saying that that with updates this game will get better. I think even the folks who kind of give it 100% will probably agree to that as well. The thing is about Civilization, the series, I've tried to be able to play them. Unfortunately, I just can't. I'll kind of play a little bit of the video on the, but muted on. This is coming actually. This is the GameSpot review. That I'm gonna have, I'll just have on the video version, so I apologize for the audio version. Won't have any visuals to this, but check out the video version if you want to see what the game kind of looks like. The biggest problem that I have with Civilization 7 is not necessarily the gameplay itself, it's the interface. Oftentimes the interfaces for these kind of RTS games are often pushed to the smallest limit they could possibly be, and with the adage of it being Steam Deck verified, actually I'd be very curious to see if it is Steam Deck verified, does it still I'm gonna say Civilization 7 Steam, if they mention that basically that it's going to have some text issues, because they are very good at being able to let players know that, hey, this is going to be an issue overall. Let's see. Developer comments for Steam Deck verified. Okay, let's see what they say. It literally just says it's just Steam Deck verified. I'm just very curious as to how they were able to accomplish that. Like with this small of an interface. Like I could put this full screen and you can kind of like looking at this even just from like, I know it's a cut off for a lot of parts of it, but it's just extremely small. And I like even, yeah, like a lot of the text is, I could barely read that at all. And this is a thing, this is my biggest problem with these types of games is that whoever designs these feels like that, or they design them with basically with monitors, like large monitors that are like really close to them. I would imagine that the console version of this is probably going to be the same. And I don't even know if there's any like text size increase because I haven't really looked into the game as of yet. And I usually wait for reviews to come out to kind of see if it's worth just at least trying. But I'm kind of like looking at this, and I actually even looking. I've talked about this before. Actually, I think I did post it on Twitter. There is so much wasted space here that could totally be used up with like larger text size. And yet they still opt for a small text size. I mean, I beg you, developers, if you're watching this show, please stop, for the love of God, I beg you. Stop making your font size 16 pixels or less. This is not just for the sake of my own eyes or for anyone that's low vision, but I'm just talking about anybody who doesn't even have a disability that they're going to try to be able to play this on console on their TVs at home. How is anyone going to read this little like tooltip? Like, I know it's kind of cut off a little bit on the camera here, or on the episode, but like, how's anyone supposed to read this? Like, was it scientific legacy point? Is that what it says? How is anyone supposed to read that sitting on their couch like 6 feet away? I don't get it. I don't understand. And I don't understand why this has been the design like default for years now. And it just makes it that, because I want to play these games. I used to love playing these games when I was a kid. When I was a teenager, like Roller Coaster Tycoon and Sim City was like one of my favorite games. I love being able to build like these civilizations or these cities or theme parks. Yes, the font size was small even then. Granted, I also had a large, well, not a large monitor, but I have a monitor. Basically, in order for me to see it, I had to put my nose so close to my face just to read the text. I'm sick and tired of doing that anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. Fix it. And also make it so that there's a screen reader. I mean, my biggest complaint with regards to accessibility nowadays is honestly the blind accessibility within games. Oftentimes, whenever there's like a deaf and hard of hearing or motor accessibility or cognitive accessibility, those, not to say that those aren't like worth working on, of course. Like the 100%, I'm all for all accessibility, not just blind accessibility. If you've ever watched any of my reviews, I know that I'm kind of considered like the show that I've started here on YouTube was Blind Gamer, but whenever I review games from all disabilities, not just blind accessibility. But however, I will say there has been vast improvement for a lot of those those disabilities. For motor disability, from deaf and hard of hearing, are a lot of them perfect? No, we still have a long way to be able to go for all of them. However, the biggest missing accessibility in games today is still blind accessibility. In the fact that 9 games out of 10 that are released are not accessible to blind players. So yes, I am complaining about the text size in these games, but for good reason. If there was a screen reader, that would help me out immensely. Then I don't have to actively focus on the screen. I can just let the screen read for me, which would be great. I love that. I want that. But it just, like, I'm sick and tired of seeing video games being made for, or that they care about accessibility, and yet there's barely any love for blind accessibility. I know, it's. And this is kind of going up against, because apparently, because there's quite a few blind players or blind gamers that don't like me. that have constantly told me that I'm not blind. They're trying to convince me that, or trying to tell me otherwise, that I'm not blind. And I do a disservice to the video game industry, and I don't represent them in any way, shape, or form. I'm deceiving developers. I've heard it all. Then the other day, I got a 1,000-word email telling me how wrong I am about calling myself blind. But I do like to think, though, that I still am, like, even with all of that criticism, even from the blind community, I still constantly, every time I talk to developers, screen reader, navigational assistance, high contrast mode, larger text, all things that all people on the blind spectrum would need. I ask for all of that. But does any of the people in the blind community care about that? No. They just hate the word. They just hate the fact that I use the word blind, even though I am. Anyway, sorry, I went on a bit of a rant there, but anyway, this is one of the reasons why I probably won't be picking up Civilization 7 as much as it pains me to say. I would love to be able to give it a try. If there's a way to be able to get a review code of this that I could at least jump in and see if maybe there's accessibility, or if you have played it, let me know if you do see anything for any accessibility. If there is an accessibility menu, I highly doubt it, but who knows? Let me know in the comments below if you've tried it. So. All right, let's move on to another review roundup. We've also got another sort of reviews of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I was interested in this one because it was kind of described to me as Baldur's Gate 3, but set in like medieval times. Not medieval times, the restaurant, but the show, but basically in the actual medieval times. So I was kind of like, slowly over time, I've been able to like trying to bring I've been getting interested in the game, and I was kind of curious to see what the reviews were going to be like. So right now, cumulatively on Metacritic, it currently is sitting at an 87. And let's take a look at some of the reviews. Let's see. I'm trying to find. Let's see all 50 critic reviews and see what they say. So there's a few people that are giving it 100. Dexterto, or however you pronounce it, gives it 100. It's obvious a lot of love has been poured into every facet of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. If you found combat in the first game too difficult, or the survival mechanics tedious, then the sequel's streamlined gameplay might not be enough to change your mind. However, if you were a fan of the first game, there's so much to enjoy here. It's clearly the game Warhorse wanted to make back in 2018, and it's been improved in so many small ways. Bigger and better. It's a must play. Aside from some clunkiness and the odd tedious mission, it's hard to find another game that is so expertly combines realism and fun with tough but satisfying combat. A morally ambiguous but grand story in a faithfully recreated medieval world brimming with stuff to do. It's the sequels fans wanted, and I feel quite hungry for more. Okay. All right. Let's see. Let's go with Windows Central as well. Gives it 100 with a colossal open world packed with well over 100 plus hours of engaging content, substantially improved combat compared to the original Kingdom Come Deliverance, and more Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is an undeniable triumph from Warhorse Studios. It's one of the best RPGs I've ever played. It will undoubtedly be in the conversation for 2025's Game of the Year. Let's see. Who else do we got here? Just kind of going down the list. GameSpot. Okay, so they give it a 90. While Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 still stumbles in some aspects of its portrayal for 15th century Bohemia, the shadow that lingered over the first game has mostly dissipated. This is a massively improved sequel in every other area with better combat, great quest design, and none of the technical issues that plagued the original. Not everyone will vibe with its slow pace and oftentimes tedious approach, but those willing to meet it on its own terms will find a compelling open world RPG that relishes in player agency and the consequences of your actions. Cool. And then IGN also gives it a 90. In many ways, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 feels like it's picked up and run with the reactive first-person RPG torch that Bethesda left lying in the mud years ago in pursuit of a broader audience, and it has excellent melee combat, which the Elder Scrolls never came close to even at its peak. Sometimes it's not sure if it wants to be a cinematic tale about a specific guy going on a specific adventure, or a truly dynamic open world sandbox packed with interesting and varied side quests, and that can lead to a few immersion-shattering conflicts. But most of the time, leaning into one doesn't get in the way of the other. and you're free to go on any of its many optional adventures along the way to a thought-provoking and rousing finale for the main plot. I was delighted to get lost in its world, and it will be a long time before I forget its exceptional story. Okay, so that's for my channel. Let's see if we can be able to go down to some of the other folks. Pretty much everyone. Okay, now we're getting into the 80s. Trying to see if I can find like any other. No. Okay, so pretty much that's kind of it. So pretty much even the lowest gives it a 50, but that's a Games Hub. Kingdom Deliverance 2 is a game that unabashedly demands you meet it on its own level, which I do find somewhat admirable. I just constantly found it to be a miserable slug to engage with, where everything was 10 times more overblown than it had any business being. There's a fantastic sandbox steep within it, but digging through the mountain of muck to appreciate it was simply more than I could stand most of the time. I mean, there are basic game subs is there of their own opinion too. Even though the majority kind of says otherwise. So in 87, now here's another game that I was kind of interested in, obviously because I'm sort of like interested in my kind of like RPG era, as it were. With basically we've got Avowed, we've got this, we've got Civilization 7. I mean, even though it's sort of an RPG. Like we're getting quite a few fantasy RPG games this year. The thing that I was kind of interested in, this one was kind of always on my radar, and it's kind of like slowly over time kind of built up interest as we got closer to release. So it is great to hear that Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is definitely worth the hype. However, I do bring it back to accessibility. I do want to bring up this one review that some friends of mine found from a Finnish website, Toisto.net. This was written by Jonathan, I believe that's what his name is. He gives it a 4 out of 5 for Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. But he does highlight something specific that I want to talk about in regards to accessibility. So I'm actually going to blow this up so you can be able to see this a little better. The mechanics and accessibility. While some elements of Kingdom Come Deliverance have been updated for the sequel, the successor is still a frustratingly inaccessible title that keeps players at an arm's reach. Some will love it naturally for its uncompromising manner and emphasis on quote-unquote realism, but many will lose out on a great adventure because the gameplay proves such a chore. To start with, there are no accessibility settings beyond some minor inclusions for text sizes. If you have any motor or function or cognitive disabilities, you have a bad time with Deliverance 2. Combat is as fussy as ever, even though it has some minor improvements in the past years. But it's lockpicking and thievery that prove most frustrating, as they require impeccable precision for most of the game. It's only after you unlock certain choice skills that even the hardest locks become manageable, and by then, much of the story is already over. Combat is just as punishing as before until it suddenly isn't. As a word of warning, you'll want to emphasize tank-like strength and heavy armor from the very beginning if you want to avoid frustrations, especially towards the end where Deliverance 2 consistently pits Henry against Henry's the main character against mobs of enemies. There's a constant wedge between intent and desire as Deliverance 2's mechanics aim for a semblance of hardcore realism while its story goes for the rollicking fun of an action adventure. It takes until the very end for it to find a balance, and when it does, the result is a blast. It's just a shame that it's around 40 hours into the game. I appreciate Jonathan for talking about this. We need more journalists reviewing games for accessibility, so it's not just reliant on only a few, including me. And I had heard about the combat being difficult in Kingdom Come Deliverance, the first one. And then seeing basically that everyone is saying that the combat is still difficult. And here's the thing, you can still make an accessible game without making just without decreasing the combat difficulty. It's proven time and time again that accessibility is not in any hindrance to any vision art or artistic vision whatsoever. And I appreciate Jonathan for talking about accessibility in that now, granted, he may not know everything, and there could be some accessible design that's built into the game. So I will always kind of leave that to basically anyone's own judgment, or even my own. But this sets a barometer at a pretty low amount. Like the bar is set pretty low if There's no accessibility settings beyond text sizes, which again, as I rented before, great. Love that. Hopefully that's good enough for me to be able to play. I don't know. I still need a lot more blind accessibility than just text size, but I'm glad to see that it's there. But if you like, it's the when it says lockpicking and thievery, you have to be more precise. I would imagine that the combat is also you have to be very precise. And for those with motor and cognitive disabilities, having to be precise with their actions is very difficult to do because they don't have the same reflexes. They don't have the same. Some people may not have the right sort of nerves in their fingers to be able to know when they're pushing a button, or they can't be able to. They can only be able to move their hands a certain way, or they get fatigued every time they try to be able to push in a button. So there's a lot of that's combined. So it has nothing to do with the difficulty, quote unquote. It really does it's the physical aspect of someone can't be able to push a button at the precise time because they may not have the right reflexes, or they have a disability that prevents them from doing so. That's not the disabled person's fault. That's the game's fault. We talk about the social model of accessibility and that the world around us is disabled and not is disabling, not that the person is that the person is disabled. Sorry, I screwed that definition up, but the social model of accessibility is that if you say I'll just use an example. If you're in a wheelchair and you're trying to be able to get into a restaurant and it doesn't have a ramp, the problem isn't the person within the wheelchair. The problem is that there's no ramp, that the restaurant does not have a ramp. So it's the world that is disabling to disabled people, not that the disabled people are the things that are disabling the world. So disabled people are not disabling your games. Disabled people just want the same access that everyone else does. It's the game that's the problem, not disabled players. And to see that, unfortunately, another game that I would love to been able to play, two of which that I'm going through reviews on this show, are games that I'm probably not going to be able to play, is very disappointing. I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. Hopefully we'll get another game that can be at least have some decent accessibility coming up. I don't know. Let's see. Do I want to go into the next story? Actually, I'm going to briefly touch on this story. Yeah, because I do have an accessibility sort of stance on this. So this is from Tom Ivan over at VGC. Let's build Battlefield together. EA shares pre-alpha Battlefield gameplay alongside testing details. About 10 seconds of footage is included at the end of a new video introducing the studios working on the game and a new Battlefield community testing program. It's viewable above. Let's actually watch this real quick. It's
defending that last point in breakthrough.
You and your squad going together, trying to accomplish something.
Helicopter crashes into the building next to you, and all of a sudden the roof drops on your head.
The vehicle play is the destruction.
You've got tanks, you've got jets.
You get a bit sweaty in your palms.
That full, all-out military experience.
So we'll get as far as when they talk about it, Battlefield Labs.
This franchise comes with a long history, spanning over 20 years now. But the question is, how do we continue to build on that and push Battlefield to the next level?
I've been playing Battlefield since long before I joined the team. When 1942 first came out, the amount of fun that we all sat down.
I remember 1942.
Just, still like a fond memory. So
I also remember Battlefield Vietnam as well. That was fun.
Give that team that space to do something just more amazing even than they've done in the past.
We set out with this ambitious idea of creating this new Battlefield universe. And to make that vision a reality, we had to think big.
Each of our 4 studios comes with its own culture and expertise into what we call Battlefield Studios.
One team that spans across the globe and combines 20 years of franchise experience with emerging talent.
Love that. Okay.
DICE has such a rich history with Battlefield. We've been working on it for years and years. But we also want to do something bigger and better than we've ever done before. And you can't do that with one studio.
DICE is responsible for the multiplayer part of the game. which incorporates things like destruction systems, class play, squad play, vehicles, gadgets, all of those kind of underlying systems that drive the experience.
So I don't know. Okay, I'll skip past the video for now. If you want to be able to check it out, go to the link in the description for the article. But basically, let's just say Battlefield Labs is a place for us to test concepts and experiences we're excited about with you, our players. According to EA, we want our community to play a key role in the future of Battlefield, and this is an opportunity for many of you to do just that. It's an unprecedented moment for Battlefield, it added. We will start by testing the pillars of play like core combat and destruction, then transition to balance and feedback for our weapons, vehicles, and gadgets, ultimately leading to where all these pieces come together in our maps, modes, and squad play. And yes, we'll be testing Conquest and Breakthrough, the heart and soul of our all-out warfare experience. But Battlefield Labs will also be a place to explore new ideas and fine-tune and improve Battlefield pillars like our class system, Assault, Engineer, Support, and Recon. Excuse me, wow, got hiccups. To create deeper, more strategic play. Players can register now for the chance to participate with initial invites set to be distributed, to a few thousand players in Europe. Excuse me, wow. Oh my goodness. In Europe and North America. Over time, EA plans to open testing up to other territories and tens of thousands more users. For internal EA studios, which the publisher is collectively referring to it as Battlefield Studios, are building a connecting universe set in the modern day. DICE is responsible for its multiplayer component. Motive is working on multiplayer maps, as well as single-player mission content. Criterion is mainly focused on single-player, and Ripple Effect is creating a new experience for the series. So 4 studios built into one larger studio called Battlefield Studios, and you can be able to help build that with Battlefield Labs, and you can sign up to be able to test it out. I like that, because here's the thing, going back to what I was going to talk about, the point I was going to make about accessibility. This is going to be huge, because if disabled players want to be able to play Battlefield, EA is very accessibility. They are accessibility focused. I have seen efforts done by EA in the past of pushing for more accessibility. We've seen it from Respawn. I've seen it from some of the EA Sports titles. Obviously, Dragon Age: The Veilguard was a big proponent for accessibility. So I can definitely see Battlefield being within that space. So if disabled players, if you want to be able to try out Battlefield, jump into sign up for the playtest. You may not be able to, I don't know if you'll be able to get in right away. Hopefully you do. Because if you do, think of it as a way you can be able to provide feedback for accessibility, and they may be able to hire you to consult on it and be able to try it, and you be able to have a say in how Battlefield's going to play. That's how this works. They can't build a game that's accessible unless they have disabled players trying to be able to play it and give them feedback. So if they don't get that feedback, they don't know what they need to do. So that's basically what I would suggest. So if you are disabled, you want to give Battlefield a try, definitely sign up for the labs and see if you can be able to see if you can get in there. And let me know if you do. All right, I'm going to end the episode there. I think Battlefield Labs is a great idea. Getting the community involved in it. It's 20 years and at this point for the franchise. Over 20 years, and I think that giving it to the players to be able to help kind of decide on, or help sort of shape the future of Battlefield, I think is a good idea. I mean, Battlefield 2042 didn't really launch in a way that I think people would have wanted. So I think that them going to the players to be like, hey, let's build this together, could be a good way to be able to sustain that game, for instead of just building a game that people may or may not play. Let the players sort of help work with them. I mean, hey, it worked for Baldur's Gate 3. I mean, you got to think about it. Baldur's Gate 3 didn't launch just in August of 2023, and that was it. September of 2023, and that was it. They had early access for the first act of the game open for quite a while for players to be able to jump in. So a lot of that feedback went into the game, and then when they launched it, that's basically how they were able to garner as much praise as it did, because it was a game that was kind of developed alongside the players. So anyway, that's gonna be it for me today. Thank you so much for watching and or listening. I apologize for the rants, but hey, it happens sometimes. I just appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to be able to subscribe to be able to get more of these episodes, click the subscribe button, both on YouTube and as well as on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whichever podcast player platform you choose or you prefer. Thanks again. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.